See, it's in bad taste.
I mean, for traveling, it's probably still advantage.
At least right now, yeah. Let's see here.
Like for Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, if he would have a Russian passport now, it would be quite bad for him.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he hasn't. He's got two. He's got a Russian passport, and he's got a a Swedish
Swedish,
passport.
Swedish, yeah.
Yeah, and he mostly uses that. Oh, well, I was looking for something. Looks like it didn't get copied, which is a little scary. Oh no, that's it. This is definitely mundane. But I'm from America, so I can show this.
Krishna, Krishna.
Let's see here. Not this thing. Um, oh, what's going on? Oh,
So for what dates Lithuania invited you?
we're trying to work that out, and we're bearing in mind that there are some friends of ours who was asking us to go to for some program for Janmashtami. I don't remember where that was. I think it was in Africa or someplace
Somewhere,
maybe.
somewhere. I've heard something about it. Some rumors got here to check.
Mhm. Okay, why don't we go ahead and start? We have some really, really sweet stuff today. And mostly I want to be sharing with everybody some different perspectives from Shastra about the nature of Vrindavan Dham. So let's, why is it doing this stuff, man? Okay. Gauragraganya gana gocha goloruharam Gauranga gudatama gopyada kolpa briksham Gopala gada ratidam Yati singha gora govinda deshi kavaram satatam namami Uttama adama kichuna bachila jachiya dile kakodan Kahe premananda himona gauranga hridaya dhariya bodha Bhaja gauranga kaha gauranga Laha gaurangera namare Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoya Mara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Yasyaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema-bhakti-candrika Parama Pumaita Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandrai Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandrai Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandrai Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kriyat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidvaha Rishayuschat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunatha Brajavala Bapahimam Vanchakalpadurubhischa Kripa Sindhubhya cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Krishna Nama Amrita Bharshi Vakta Chanda Prabhadvasta Tamo Bharaya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Namo Namah Srila Narotamaya. Again and again, I offer my obeisances in the Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is indeed a true follower of Lord Gauranga Deva. The nectarian shower of the holy name of Krishna radiating from the moon of his mouth destroys the darkness of ignorance. So, I don't know what, I'm a little confused. I just turned off my big monitor and some funny things are happening here. So maybe you guys can help me. What do you see right now? Do you see me or do you see that verse about now from Das Thakur?
No, we
You
see
see
you.
you. See me. Okay. My apologies for that. I don't want to be disturbing. Okay, so let's go on to look at the verse we were previously, which was, I don't know, was about 100 years ago. Maybe.
Something like that. At least it feels so.
So this section is called Braj Parakya Tattva, the truth about Parakya Bhav and Braj. In the previous verse is Govinda Sarida Nitya Tanhara Seva Satya Vrindavana Bhumi Teja Moya Tahate Jamuna Jal Kore Nitya Jalama Tare Tire Astu Kunja Hoy. So he speaks in the first line about the body, the sharir of Govinda Krishna and how it's Nitya. And similarly, how his sevaks, their bodies are satya, their bodies, themselves, their service is eternal. And then he begins to speak about the nature of Vrindavan Dham. And in this verse we're going to look at today, which is text 67, he continues with that. I put it wrong here, 67. Shitala Kerina Koro Kopa Taru Guna Dara Taru Lata Sada Ritu Sobha Purna Chanda Samajoti Chidananda Moya Murti Mahalila Darshana Lubha. The groves of Vrindavan are charming with soothing moonbeams. The 6 seasons beautify the forests wherein the trees fulfill all desires. The blissful personality of Krishna is more effulgent than the full moon, and one should be eager to have a glimpse of his wonderful pastimes. So, this verse speaks something about the beauty of Krishna, the beauty of Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada describes this in one lecture in Los Angeles in 1971. Let's go and look at that for starters. And he describes what is it that's really beautiful about Vrindavan. And this for us is a very important point because we want to go somewhere. Every religion, they talk about heaven, they talk about some special place you can go. And in Islam, you get to go and there's 100 virgins there and you can go be with them. And they give some description. In the Bible and the Christian tradition, it's kind of really vague, and some people kind of picture it as a place of clouds, and you just kind of hang out and you're bored maybe, and you watch your friends and family down here on earth and what they're doing. But in the Vedic literatures, it's a very important subject. What is the nature of the supreme abode of the Lord? And there's so many different abodes of the Lord. And why is that? And why is it that Vrindavan Dham is so particularly special? Let's see if I can do something else here with me. Looks like I can't. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So let's see what Srila Prabhupada said in this lecture. All the inhabitants of Vrindavan were thinking, we are all Krishnas. The central point is Krishna. That is the beauty of Vrindavan. All the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the elderly cowherd men, the boys, the girls, the trees, the river, the birds, the beasts, everyone, they're simply thinking, I am Krishna's. This is Krishna consciousness. As soon as we think otherwise, I'm Indian, I'm American, I'm this, I'm that, that is material consciousness. So this is a really important point, and it's something that, to give you a mundane, not a mundane example, but a practical example today, when I see devotees talking about building, making buildings, for example, I went for some years ago, I was visiting one East Asian temple, and the place was so small, they had so few devotees, they had to ask me to help cook and do offerings for the deities. There, I asked them, I said, why don't you guys go out in Harinam and do some book distribution? They said, oh, there's not enough devotees here for that. Okay, there's only like 3 or 4 devotees there. But they had all these posters and displays about a multi-million-dollar temple that they wanted to build. And I told them, I said, that's nice. It looks really beautiful, but what's the point? Why don't you make a congregation first? Just build a small room. And when it becomes too crowded because you're preaching and preaching, then you make something a little bigger. And again, when you preach more, then you make it a little bigger. But so the temple is not what's important. And we all intuitively know that. We're not interested in just to go to see a building. Buildings are beautiful, but what is the beauty of a building? Somebody's got their microphone on. Please mute yourself. Please, everybody, please check and mute if you're not muted. Still going. There we go. Thank you. That was Kalindi, I think, maybe. I don't know. Somebody. Uh, we're not so much interested in buildings. And if a building is beautiful, it's beautiful because of some individual. It's beautiful because some great artist did something wonderful there. It's a manifestation of the devotee's consciousness. And therefore, in the song we often sing, Ganga Karuna Kora, it says, Hridoya Mandire, that please let me make a temple in my heart. So we want to speak something about Vrindavan Dham today. And I just put together a whole bunch of verses about the glories of Vrindavan Dham. And we can just go over some of those and contemplate on it. First of all, this is from the 44th chapter of the 10th canto. There's a beautiful verse which is often quoted by our acharyas. Punya bhatta braja bhuva yad ayam Punya bhatta braja bhuva yad ayam nilinga Gudha purana purushovana chittamalya Gapalayan sahabalak vanayam shavenum Vikridayan chitigirita ramarchitangri. How pious are the tracts of land in Braj. For there the primeval personality of Godhead, disguising himself with human traits, wanders about, enacting his many pastimes, adorned with wonderfully variegated forest garlands. He whose feet are worshipped by Lord Shiva and Goddess Rama vibrates his flute as he tends the cows in the company of Balaram. So this verse, if we were to unpack this verse, it would take us many, many sessions. It's such a beautiful, it's speaking about the punya, or the piety of Braj. And what is that piety? It's Guru Purana Purush, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is disguising himself as a human being. And that's a very, very sweet thing. If we meet someone who's a CEO of a big company or something,
You are muted, Prabhu.
Okay, can you hear me now? We don't
Yes.
want Krishna separate from Vrindavan. You can't, as it's described in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Narad Muni, he explains, he says that some people think that the residents of Vrindavan are enamored by Krishna, and that's why it's so special. He says, but that's not the fact. He says, what's special is that Krishna is enamored by them. Krishna is completely bewildered by them, so much so that he forgot about his business as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I had to come and remind him, hey, Krishna, don't you know what's going on? So in this verse, it's also described how Krishna's lotus feet are being worshipped by Lord Shiva and Lord Goddess Rama, Lakshmi Devi, the most important personalities in the universe. However, he's wandering around, he's taking care of cows. And as we sometimes comment here, a few days ago, yesterday actually, there was some Gwalas. They're taking care of water buffalo, but that's also the business of cowherd people in India. And Krishna himself, is described in the Bhagavatam, has buffalo, water buffalo sometimes too. Some of them came near our house and they were talking really, really loud. I mean, so loud that those of you who've been here before, they were in front of our house. I'm in my office. I could hear them talking so loud, like shouting. They're a little bit rough people, and they went out. And so those kind of persons in India are considered like just completely useless. They're not people with a brain, or anything, but this is what God himself is doing, because it's a very, very sweet, sweet thing. So today I want to look a little bit about what our acharyas say about Vrindavan Dham. It's a wonderful exploration. In the beginning of Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu, he speaks about this. We'll be looking at that. We'll be looking a little at Brihad Bhagavatamrita. We'll be looking a little bit in Govinda Lilamrita. And I wanted to look in Govinda Vrindavan. It's another beautiful Sanskrit book, but we don't have so much time, I don't think, today in our session. I want to come a little bit to Jagannath Puri also. So in the first part of Gopal Champu, in the first chapter, Srila Jiva Goswami gives a long Sanskrit prose thing describing about Vrindavan Dham. So he says, Asti Kila Vrindavana Nama Jayam, that this forest named Vrindavan, Pagadheyam, it gives auspiciousness to Eva Subhagam, Vanam, to the Earth Devi, Avani Devyaha. And he says, this forest, he says, Yadaho, it's astonishing, it's an amazing thing. Yadaho Vanam, this forest, Apya Vanaya Kalpate Sakala Lokasya, it can deliver all living entities in all the three worlds. Prasanga matrata pavamanam akshaditacha kshiprata pratapata pavamanatam apya tikramati. Pavama means the air, and kshipra means just a touch. That if there's just prasanga means coming in contact with. If you come in contact with just a breeze from Vrindavan Dham, it washes away all the troubles in this world. And I'll just go ahead and read some of the English. That touch opens the bolt on the door in the prison of the three Vargas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and it carries away the fragrance of impersonal liberation. So there's not even a fragrance of impersonal liberation when we get around Vrindavan Dham, when we consider Vrindavan Dham. In other words, Vrindavan Dham is such an exalted, wonderful place that just coming in contact with it, just coming in touch with the air of Vrindavan Dham, then immediately all these desires go away, and even the desire of impersonal liberation. He says that with its glories, it unties the bonds of liberation. Mukti sanda sambandha gandham api swabandha nirbandhanam bhavati. Sada sada vilasasya bhakti pradam apikadapi nadadati tad bhaktim. He says that in other places, Krishna, he doesn't easily give bhakti, but in the land of Vrindavan, he's giving it very easily and always. And this is why I want to finish up our discussion today, but I can't resist about, I want to finish up with the topic, but I can't resist jumping ahead to this topic a little bit. We were just reading some verses in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita of Sanatana Goswami in his commentary, glorifying Jagannath Puri Dham. And it speaks there about how this Dham gives liberation in 7 different ways. Just if someone comes to visit this place, if someone touches this place, someone takes prasadam here, someone chants the holy name here, someone lives here, then easily they can get liberation just by touching this place. But, and I mentioned this to Krishna Kun, and Krishna Kun, God bless her, she said, but we don't want liberation. Huh? And that's exactly the point. But so Jagannath Puri Dham has 2 things. It has Smarta Vichar and Goswami Vichar. Jagannath Puri Dham is, I like to get to from the 14th chapter of the Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita. We'll see in the discussion between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Damodar Goswami at Gundicha at the time of the Rath Yatra. There's 2 different things in this place. And it depends on the consciousness of the person. So this place is also described as Gupta Vrindavan. And who cares about touching this place and getting liberation? Mukti tucha falahoy namabasa hoite. Mukti, liberation, is just an insignificant fruit of even namabas. But the real glory of this place, if we're understanding that it's Vrindavan, then here, this verse from Gopal Champu is describing, or this prose description of Gopal Champu is describing, that just you come in touch with the air in this place. Prasanga, matrata pavamanam, apitatra kshiprata, pratapata pavamanatam api itikramati. Just coming in touch, Krishna Kun, with the air in Jagannath Puri, if you're understanding this place to be non-different from Vrindavan, that air will immediately give you bhakti. And this is why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to come to this place, and why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always wants to go to Vrindavan. So let's continue with the Vrindavan, the general Vrindavan that we understand. In his heart, Lord Brahma, who's known as Pitamaha, the grandfather, yearned to attain even a lowly birth in Vrindavan. He thought his contact with Vrindavan was the beginning of his own glorious good fortune. The ways of Vrindavan are very mysterious. They are like the poetic ornament Viroda Alankar, where what seems like a contradiction is resolved in the end. Again, to me, this indicates Jagannath Puri, because the Gupta Vrindavan, but here in this place, it is a contradiction. There's great opulence, but there's also great sweetness in this place. Yeah, go ahead, turn it off, actually, Krishna Kun, especially the one above my head. That's the left fan. Even if their authors lack skill, lack poetic skill, poems about Vrindavan are glorious. This is because in those poems is an awareness of what is truly important and glorious. Vrindavan is what is important and glorious. And this is a very important principle for us, as we often comment how Srila Prabhupada wanted to create Vrindavan villages. There's a beautiful lecture Prabhupada gave in Hawaii about this point. He wanted us to create a society where the devotees had very intimate friendships. Now, that's a difficult thing, to be frank, when we have such an international society and there's so many hundreds and thousands, perhaps millions of devotees now around the world who are taking part in different ISKCON projects and things. How can we have a very sweet, intimate friendship? But we can do that by having smaller, different sanghas. So Jiva Goswami is commenting here that even if these authors lack poetic skill, the poems about Vrindavan are glorious because they understand what is truly important and glorious. What's truly important and glorious is that we need to come together with like-minded groups of devotees and hear and chant and live in Vrindavan, that place where there's no envy, that place where Krishna is in the center of everything. To help the people of this world, blissful Lord Krishna, the son of Nanda, descends again and again to the realm of Vrindavan. In this way, a great festival of bliss always fills Vrindavan. Now, there's a number of verses in this section, and he quotes them from the Bhagavatam 10:11-36. Vrindavanam Govardhanam Yamuna Pulinani Cha Viksha Sirutama Priti Rama Madhavayo Nripa. This verse, by the way, was also quoted by Sanatana Goswami in his commentary on Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And the verse describes about the glories of Vrindavan and how when Krishna and Balaram saw Vrindavan, they experienced Uttama Priti. They experienced the greatest pleasure. We've had, oh my God, I don't know. I think I've lost count. I think we had 5 parikramas in the last 3-4 weeks or something. It's been really, really extremely intense for us. And I found myself getting into a certain kind of kata here where I'll just explain it to you. We tell the devotees that this is such a special place, Jagannath Puri Dham. It's famous. It's famous for the beach. Many people come here for the beach. They come here to watch some cinema. And they're also pious. They go and have darshan of Lord Jagannath. And then after their darshan, they go and have some fish in a fancy restaurant or something. That's the majority of people here. And there's millions of people coming to this place. Now, out of those millions of people, very few are actually strict Vaishnavas who want to come and do bhajan for the pleasure of Jagannath and want to visit different places. But if we consider those persons, almost all of them, like 99.99%, are thinking, oh, if I go to Jagannath Puri, I'm going to make a lot of advancement. It's going to be really good for me. Maybe I'll be able to give up my material desires. Maybe I'll get bhav, I'll get this thing, I'll learn this thing, I'll learn that thing. They're still very exalted persons. But the majority are thinking like this. Now, out of hundreds and thousands of such devotees, you might have 1 or 2 who are coming and with the idea of thinking, how can I please the Lord? And that's Vrindavan. And that's what we call Dham Seva. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish Vrindavan all over the world. But the way that we establish Vrindavan is this Uttama Priti, by giving Krishna and Balaram the greatest pleasure. And they get pleasure when they see the devotees doing kirtan. And there's a beautiful verse. Jiva Goswami gives, Bandirasya sputam adihari prema kim varnaniyam santardanam stitta vatiharobadam antadadeyaha yantu swamsena cha visayatam atagovardhan adya loke snigdarachahitam idam nakshama sham itaiva. How can I describe the love that a certain banyan tree feels for Krishna? When Krishna disappeared from this world, that tree thought, let Govardhan Hill and other places in this world stay in their partial expansions, but I have no power to stay. And that tree also disappeared from this world. So why does Jiva Goswami quote this verse? He says that this banyan tree, when we think about this banyan tree, it makes our hearts tremble. And this is the nature of Vrindavan. The trees have so much love for Krishna. This banyan tree thinks, I can't continue to live in this world. Now, this tree is in Bandiravan. This tree is also mentioned, I think is probably the same tree. There is a tree, which Jiva Goswami describes elsewhere in Gopal Champu. And he says it's a place like a great playground for Krishna and Balaram and the boys. And there's parts of the tree which are hollow, and they climb up into them like a cave. There are parts of the tree, there's branches of the tree which extend over the Jamuna River. So they climb over it like a bridge, and sometimes they drop into the Jamuna River. There's places on the tree which are like sofas, and the boys sit down and they play and they talk. And that tree serves Krishna and Balaram and the boys in so many wonderful, wonderful ways. This is the nature of Vrindavan Dham. And that Vrindavan forest, he says, Aho prema gambiryam asha pasha Vrindavanasya. Aho, how astonishing it is. The prema, the gambira, the very, very deep, grave prema of this forest of Vrindavan. Kuta kuta chid agashadam bata, stambam eti tad idam harir vanam, prayasas chala dalasya kum pratam, anukarasya pulakani sarvataha. Sometimes Krishna's forest becomes stunned like a motionless mountain. Sometimes the forest starts trembling, the leaves and petals moving. And then suddenly it pushes out new sprouts. That forest sometimes stands with the hairs of its body erect in ecstasy. And Jiva Goswami goes on. Abhi brajati chatasmin, sabraja basi jana, braja raja, tanuje kim kim va tad, vyan jijasaya. He says that why wouldn't Krishna and his associates, Abhi brajati chatasmin, sabraja basi jana, braja raja, or why wouldn't they want to appear in this land of Vrindavan? He said that their appearance here is very, very appropriate. And some people say that this land of Braj, the reason why it's called Braj is because of the associates, the multitudes. Braja means also the multitudes. It's called Braj because of the devotees there, which is exactly what Srila Prabhupada was describing in that lecture we read from in Los Angeles. And let's go on a little more here. So then Jiva Goswami quotes the Bhagavatam, Tatra Arabhya Nanda Braja Sarva Samidiman. Hare Nivasatma Gunai Rama Kridam Abunan Ripa. He says that the home of Nanda Maharaj is eternally the abode of Krishna. And it's also the abode of the place of his transcendental qualities. And because of that, it's naturally endowed with all opulence and wealth. Yet beginning from the Krishna's appearance there, it became the place of the pastimes of the goddess of fortune. And some years back, in one of our Krishna Katamrita magazines, in our issue about Alarnath, we printed a story about Lakshmi Devi and how Lakshmi Devi, although she's the supreme goddess of fortune, she lives in Vaikuntha, the place where there's no problems, the place where there's all opulence, all wealth and everything, all good fortune. She's hankering that she can come to Vrindavan. But she comes to Vrindavan and she sees, wait a minute, she couldn't fit in. As Mahanidi Maharaj, who authored that article, put in a very sweet way, as she came, she said, I'm not going to make gobar cow pies, because that's what the ladies in Vrindavan, they do. And even around our house in some places, you see the ladies are collecting gobar and they put it on the walls and things to dry. It's not the most high class, apparently, occupation to do. And Lakshmi Devi, she has some abhiman. She has some love for Krishna, but as my Guru Maharaj described, it's so padika priti. It's priti with a designation. She's thinking that in a way of patitva, that Krishna is my husband. In Dwarka, in Lord Narayan, he's my husband. And I have this conception. But still, Vrindavan Dham is so attractive that Lakshmi Devi, she goes to Bilvavan and she stays there across the Jamuna. She can't exactly enter into Vrindavan, but she has this desire. And once a year, the Brijbasis have a festival. And they have a very, very unusual kind of worship. Usually we see worship in India that they do artik with incense and lamps and they offer prayers and things. But in this festival, they offer blessings to the deity. They offer blessings to Lakshmi Devi. And it's a big festival. All kinds of Brijbasis come. And they don't offer fancy food. They offer khichdi to Lakshmi Devi. And they pray for, we really wish you good luck. Maybe this year you'll be able to make it. You've been here for hundreds and thousands of years. Maybe this year you'll finally be able to go into Vrindavan because that's her desire. But we understand from the situation with Lakshmi Devi that it's not such an easy thing to enter into. Kunja Biharani, she wrote some comment here. I prefer comments, questions at the end, but it's okay. Thank you very much for the kata. It's always a great support from the conscious. Is there any other way to get rid of envy other than associating with like-minded people who are valuable in itself and not as a, which is valuable in itself and not as a brush? I guess brush means something that you just cover over or something. So how do we get rid of that envy? We get rid of that envy by seeing good in other people. We get rid of that envy by being chastised by sadhu, by someone that we have faith in, and which humbles us and helps us to see, because that envy comes when we think that we're so big and important. And when we think we're so big and important, everybody's asking us to give class, everybody's calling us a professor, everybody's giving us respect for this reason or that. And then we see someone else who's getting more respect, then we become disturbed by that. Or maybe they don't give us the respect that we think we should have. So from that, then we become envious. So that envy comes in proportion to our pride. And someone is very, very humble, they don't have that difficulty. And therefore, Mahaprabhu says that we should be amanina manadena. We should offer our respect to others. We should be tanada peace and ichina. We should think ourselves very, very fallen low. And kirtaniya sadahari, we should always chant. And if we always chant, we'll gain these two types of consciousness. We'll be able to offer all respect to others because it's such a very humbling thing to chant someone's name. And we see when we become very proud, then we lose taste for chanting. You know, I'm busy with my work. I'm busy with my life. I'm busy with my body and my perceived importance. And then I don't have time for this chanting and I don't have taste for it. Therefore, I was listening to something from my Guru Maharaj today where he was speaking the same point which I read from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and also Srila Prabhupada stresses that faith is not enough, but you have to have ruchi. And that's why we want to go to Vrindavan, because Vrindavan is the place of ruchi. So let's continue with Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu here. So then he quotes some, he says, I'm following the Padma Purana's descriptions about how the Lord is Avirbhavasya, his appearance in this world. So now I'm going to describe in the Gopal Champu, he's laying the foundation for the Gopal Champu. Again, this is the first chapter. And he's going to describe how Kalpa after Kalpa, Krishna appears. But where does he appear? He appears in the land of Vrindavan. Mm-hmm. And that place is such a wonderful, delightful place. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. He says this place, Nikaya Sparsha Virahitad Varahadi, it's never touched by the material bodies or minds of people who are residents in this material world. We can't enter into that Vrindavan. And shockingly, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Prema-bhakti-candrika, he goes further. He says, even if you're worshiping Radha and Krishna, but if you're doing it in a very opulent way with great awe and reverence, then you may be thinking about Vrindavan, you may be talking about Vrindavan, and you're worshiping Radha Krishna and Krishna with a flute and a peacock feather, but you'll end up going to a chamber of Vaikuntha, where there's Lakshmi Narayan who have the forms of Radha Krishna. And the difference between that abode and the abode of Vrindavan is that Vrindavan is such a very, very sweet place. Huh? So what to speak of that, if someone has some material desires or anything, they can't enter into Vrindavan Dham. And he goes on to describe how Vrindavan Dham is full of wonderful flowering trees and bushes, which are described in the Varaha Purana and other shastras. And within Vrindavan Dham, Krishna's enjoying so many nectarian pastimes with Balaram and the cowherd boys and the cows. And there's so many descriptions of this in different literatures. And he says it should be understood that Vaibhava Visheshat Asesham Bhavati, that the glory and beauty of Vrindavan has no limit. Because Prakriti Stitam Atitohi, that Vrindavan is outside the realm of the material world. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about this also in his Navadvip Mahatmya, that some people, they're not in the Dham, but they're on top of the Dham. They haven't actually entered into Vrindavan. And then he begins this quote, the Gautamiya Tantra. We're a little late today, and I'd like to finish pretty soon. But let's try to go through these verses from the Gautamiya Tantra. These are such nectar verses, wonderful description. These are spoken by Krishna himself. As I recall, to Narad Muni, maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but as I recall, it goes to Narad Muni about the glories of Vrindavan. And the first verse is a little famous. Idam, Idam Vrindavanam, this Vrindavan, Idam, this Vrindavan, Ramyam. It's a very, very sweet place. And Mama Daimaiva Kevalam, this place, Kevalam, only this place. This is my dham, this is my abode. Atame pasava pakshi mriga kita nuramara. He said that even in this place, the pakshis, the birds, the pasava, the beasts, the different animals and things, when yeva santi mama dishne mrita yanti mamalayam, when they reside here in Vrindavan, when they die, they go to my eternal abode. Ataya gopakanyascha nivasanti mamalaye yoganyascha moya nityam mama seva parayanaha. And then he speaks about the gopis, the gopakanyas, or the young, kanya means the young girls, the young gopi girls residing here in Vrindavan. And they're yoginis, they're the greatest of yogis. And mama seva parayanaha. They're serving me with devotion. One of my god sisters today wrote me a message and asked, she said, I'm trying to understand what Braj Prem means. That was her question. She said, and she gave me a link to a lecture of our Guru Maharaj. He said, where my Guru Maharaj is speaking about Braj Prem is Gopi Prem. And so she was a little confused by that. How do we say that? And my response to her basically was that when you speak about something, you may speak about different qualities that it has, but you characterize it generally by the topmost quality that it has. So when we speak about Braj Prem, it also means the prema, the love that the banyan tree has, the love that the Jamuna River has, the love that the cows of Braj have, the cowherd boys have, that Raktak and Patra, Krishna's servants, and all the residents of Vrindavan have for Krishna. But because within that category of Braj Prem, the topmost limit of it is Gopi Prem. That gopi, the love of the gopis, that's characterized sometimes as Braj Prem. And the Gautamiya Tantra goes on. Pancha yojanam evastivana mendeya rupakam kalindiyam susubnatya paramamrita vahini. And this is such a nice, so this 40-mile forest of Vrindavan, deha rupakam, this is my own body, my own form. And it's just completely paramamrita vahini. Within this realm of Vrindavan, there's a paramamrita, there's a vahini, a flow of nectar. And that flow of nectar is the Kalindi, the Jamuna River, who he says is Susumnakya. The Susumna chakra is like the essential chakra of the body. So Krishna's saying that Braj is my Deha Roop, my transcendental form, and the essence of that is the Jamuna. The Jamuna is described also by Kavi Karnapur as Vrindavan, what is it? Ananda Vrindavan Champu. Thank you, Krishna Korn. That this Jamuna River is the life of Braj. And it's the life because it is personified love for Krishna. So the Gautamiya Tantra goes on. Atadeva shabhutani vatante sukshma rupata sarvadeva moyas chaham natajami vanam tvachit. He said that in this place, the demigods and sages stay here in this abode of Vrindavan. And in some places, our acharyas described that the devas who manifest themselves, they perceive things through the senses of different living entities in this world. Agni Dev, who's also the fire of digestion in everyone's body, perceives through the fire. If someone makes a campfire or cooking fire, he can perceive through that. And he can also perceive through the fire of digestion, whereas Vayu can perceive wherever there's air and Varuna can perceive wherever there's water, et cetera, et cetera. So they're perceiving these devatas, they manifest in Vrindavan in the senses of the Brijbasis so that they can get some of the ecstasy that the Brijbasis have. So they stay here, and he says, Sarva Deva Mayas Chaham, I'm the master of all the devatas. Nato Jami Vanam Kuchit, I never leave Vrindavan. Vrindavana Parityaya Padikam Nagachati. Krishna says, I never take even one step out of Vrindavan. That's a very deep subject we speak about sometimes. I won't go into that right now. And then the Gotamiya Tantra goes on. Avirbhava Suro Bhavo Bhaven Me Tra Yuge Yuge. Tejomayamidam ramyam advishyam charma chakshusha. So yuga after yuga, I appear in this abode, and then again I disappear. Material eyes have no power to see this glorious and delightful world of Vrindavan. And he uses here an interesting word for Vrindavan. He calls it ramyam. And this is the same word which Narad Muni uses in Brihad Bhagavatamrita to describe the Gopal Champu, to describe to Gopakumar about the nature of Jagannath Puri. He says that Param Aishvarya, Bara Prakasha. Here in this place is Param Aishvarya in Jagannath Puri, but there's also Iti Ramyam. He said there's also great sweetness here, but it's hidden by this sweetness. So, and as he's saying here, material eyes have no ability to see the nature of this place. So, therefore, Sanatana Goswami, in his Mangalacharana for Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he offers prayers to Vrindavan Dham. Jayate Jayate Vrindaranya Metam Murare Priyatanamati Sadhu Swanta Vaikunta Vasat Ramayati Sasadaga Palayam Yatra Gopi Swarita Madhuravena Vardhayan Prema Rase. All glories, Jayati, Jayati, Brindaranya Metan Murare, to this place where we're living, which is Lord Murari's Vrindavan forest. Sanatana Goswami, with great love, he's writing his Brihad Bhagavatamrita in Braj, and he's saying, all glories to this place where I live, which is the forest of Krishna. And he says that Priyatanam, this is such a dear place to Krishna. Ati sadhu swanta vaikunta vasa. Ati sadhu means it's such a very, very dear place. Sadhu means something very good. Here he's translating of the elevated saints. That Krishna prefers to reside here in this place, which is Ati sadhu, a very wonderful place, or he prefers staying here than to stay in the hearts of the great sages. And in Vrindavan, Krishna's Ramayati Sasadagaha Palayam Yatra Gopi. He's always Palaya, he's always taking care of the cows, but really he's taking care of the gopis. Krishna appears to be taking care of the cows. He appears like a gwala, but really Krishna is a devotee of the gopis. And therefore, Krishna is sometimes described as Gopinath. And Gopinath has two different meanings. Gopinath means the Lord of the gopis, but another meaning of Gopinath means is that person who his nata is the gopis. He's a servant of the gopis. And so he's always giving pleasure to the gopis. And his love for him manifests itself in the personified form of the Ras Lila. And he increases that love by playing on his flute. So I think I'm going to stop here. And if anybody has any reflections or comments or anything, this is mostly just a kind of a reading thing with a little discussion, thoughts along the way. If anybody has anything, then go ahead, you can raise your hand or jump in. So nice to see everybody. I'm really ecstatic. I really miss doing this so much. Let's see here. Mukunja Biharni comments, it touched me how the Brijbasis take care of Lakshmi. Isn't that beautiful? The Brijbasis really, they have no envy. And I often comment it because it's something I find so astonishing about the Brijbasis. Actually, we gave a class recently, not so recently, but 2 weeks ago, I think, in Mayapur. And we spoke there about the difference between the love of Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva. and how Nanda and Yashoda, they they're not envious, and they write a letter to Yashoda writes a letter to Devaki and says, actually, Krishna's both of our sons, and you should consider him also to be your son. Whereas Devaki, we hear that she didn't like that idea. No, Krishna's our son. She has that kind of mamata. But the mamata of the Brijbasis, especially headed by Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, is so loving that they're open-hearted with everyone. Such an astonishing thing. Siddha Hari Prabhu, do you want to share something? You're in the land of snow now, huh, Siddha Hari Prabhu?
Well, Prabhu, fortunately, because of your katha, the snow is melting away. We are approaching the limits of spring. There is limit to the punishment of Yamaraj. I think by hearing the katha from you, the snow is going away. So, Prabhu, I thank you again for beginning these kathas again. And we are so grateful to you that you take time to every time you come with a new jewels each time, new jewels from the mind of our acharyas, and you garland this Prema-bhakti-candrika with your own, garland each time. Thank you so much for doing that. It's so wonderful to see how much wealth of jewels are there, and you make them so much available for us to relish. Thank you so much.
I don't have anything, but we're just trying. What we try to do is just what my grandma's once told me: just repeat the words of the acharyas and that, and we should try to speak about it according to our own understanding. But listen, it's so sweet. And I was thinking when we were going into this, that my God, this is an unlimited subject. If we got into Vrindavan Mahamamrita, then we'd all be crying and rolling on the ground in ecstasy. It's such an amazing book. And that's really the book about Vrindavan. Maybe we'll continue this particular subject in another session or two. I've got a lot more that I wanted to share about it. It's really sweet. Please go on. I'm interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No problem. And especially about Gupta Vrindavan, I think if you're gonna planning some more sessions, there could be maybe few more sessions about Gupta Vrindavan, aka Jagannath Puri, so that this goes on for some time. That's a request. Now, a question which I have is you mentioned a quote from Sri Raga Vartama Chandrika by Sri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, where he says that if somebody is worshipping Radha Krishna, Sri Radha Krishna with opulence, then they enter into this chamber of Vraja or into the chamber of Vaikuntha where Lakshmi and Narayana are dressed as Radha and Krishna. So my question is twofold. One is that we hear from the Bhagavatam, and I was having this discussion with a devotee here, that in the Bhagavatam we hear many times the Gopas and Gopis, even they acknowledge Krishna's supremacy,
Uh-huh.
but still their sweetness takes over their understanding of the supremacy or the supreme position of Krishna. Uh, and so they're still situated in Vrindavan, although they have that kind of conception. So how do we understand that? And my second question is that since I'm very very far away from this topic of transforming my heart, which is full with anarthas, I'm still just getting used to doing regular devotional service. But I would like to be situated in this realm which Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is talking about, the realm of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, where the sweetness pervades much more than opulence. So how would that transition happen? Because I'm coming from the world of regulation, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. How does that transition happen where the opulence gets covered up with sweetness?
Great questions. So, first of all, my Gomaj, in one place, he quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which I never was able to find the commentary where it's from. Maybe he's paraphrasing someone else, but he explains how. Oh, just give me 1 second. Yeah. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes? All right. Because I'm being very cruel and selfish. Krishna Kun's here in the room and she couldn't hear the comments from Siddha Hari Prabhu and others, so please forgive me. So I'm going to paraphrase again what Siddha Hari Prabhu said, so Krishna Kun doesn't, because she feeds me, I have to be nice to her. He was commenting how we cited Radha Chandrika, how Vishwanath says that if someone worships Radha and Krishna, but they do it in the mood of opulence, then they attain a place in Vaikuntha where they worship Lakshmi and Narayan, who have a form similar to Radha Krishna, but everything is in the mood of opulence in that. And so he had two kind of questions. The first was that how do we understand that there's descriptions in different places of our Goswami literatures that sometimes the Brijbasis understand things about Krishna's pastimes as Ramachandra, or they understand that he's Lord Narayan. And different sages have spoken about that. Narad Muni sometimes comes and says, hey, Krishna's actually God. And Uddhava comes and says the same thing, and different personalities like that. So my Guru Maharaj quoted one purport, which he cited to Vishwanath, which describes how it's just like in the villages of India. Just today, I was going for a walk and I saw some guys coming on a bicycle, one guy coming on a bicycle carrying milk. And nowadays they have a lid on top of the milk. But traditionally, it used to be they would put straw on top of it because they didn't have, the container wasn't like that, and whatever. So when they would give the milk to the people, they would strain it, but little bits of the straw would still come in the milk. And so then when you go to boil that milk, sometimes the straw would be in the milk, and it would come to the top, and sometimes it goes to the bottom. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't see it in that boiling milk. And my Guru Maharaj commented, he said that this is like the attitude of the Brijbasis, that sometimes that straw, which is insignificant, that straw is also considered something which Tuchapla is very insignificant, that straw sometimes, that conception of Krishna's God comes to the top of their consciousness. And Mother Yashoda, when sometimes the boys, they come back after herding the cows and they say, Mataji, it was amazing today. Krishna killed this demon. And we were going home and we looked up in the sky and there's flowers coming down. And there was this guy who's naked riding on a bull and he had 5 heads. And there's this other guy with 4 heads and he's riding on a swan. And there's this other guy on an elephant with eyes all over his body. And they're all worshiping Krishna and they're saying that Krishna is Bhagavan. And when Mother Yashoda hears that, she says, really? My Gopal, Bhagavan, isn't that sweet? It doesn't minimize the love of Mother Yashoda, which is a point you were getting to. So sometimes that understanding of Krishna's opulent position comes in their mind, and they've heard something about that from different rishis and personalities. But when that comes, it quickly goes away because their love for Krishna is so much more intense than this little insignificant gyan that they have. So back to your important question, and to add a little fuel onto your question, which I was contemplating, in the second canto of the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada says that Radha Krishna don't accept our worship when we don't have spontaneous love, rather it's being accepted as Lakshmi Narayan. So, wow, that's really a very depressing kind of thought for those devotees who want to attain to Braj, like you, and that's why you bought your house, your famous house now at Radhakund. So how can we attain that? We have to have some invitation. We can't go to a place unless we have an invitation. We can't enter into a place unless we have someone take us by the hand. And so we have to take shelter of Sadhguru. He's our passport. He's our ticket to enter into that realm. And our previous acharyas, when they see that we're coming and holding our Gurudev's hand, then they may accept us, and they may accept us into Vrindavan. And we may not have qualification for that. I was occurring to me, I was thinking how, when you were speaking this question, how Srila Prabhupada gave us his deity worship. And it's something that if you go to Leela Purushottam Prabhu's house, he doesn't follow it very well. He has Radha Krishna, and he does not dress them in an opulent way, which Srila Prabhupada sometimes instructed, but he dresses them in a very, very sweet, more Vrindavan kind of mood. But it's his house, so we can't complain. That's his own personal thing. But I was thinking how Srila Prabhupada stressed it, that we should dress the deities in a very opulent way, like Lakshmi Narayan. So then where is the scope for us to enter into Braj? And then I thought to myself, Srila Prabhupada also gave us the Tulsi prayers, which is a prayer for Vrindavan, and which is a prayer for Raganuga Bhakti. But we should not misunderstand and think that, by the strength of my prayers to Tulsi Devi, that I'm so devoted to Tulsi Devi, that my bhakti for Tulsi Devi is so powerful that I'm going to get this and that. I think that's the wrong conception. The right conception is that we're singing that because it pleases Srila Prabhupada. and it pleases our Guru Maharaj who's singing those Tulsi prayers. And they're going to smile on us, and they're going to take us by the hand and bring us to Tulsi Devi, the Vrinda Devi, who's Vrindavan Dham. That's my humble thought. Those things. Maybe you have some other thoughts on this, Siddha Hari Prabhu? Thank you. You
But
have my,
Prabhu, now, sorry,
you have
Prabhu.
I visited Michigan in, like, I don't know, it was like June when we were there or something. And I'm thinking, man, June is like, because like April, May in India are like, you're going to die. Maybe it was late May or something. And it started snowing, man. I'm like, forget it. This is against my religion, you know.
Prabhu, as long as you keep speaking Katha every week, I think the snow will run away because of the sweetness of the Katha. So,
I hope so. We'll
yeah.
come with some Hari Katha or something then.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Anybody else with any other reflections, comments,
Hare
questions?
Hare Krishna. Good evening, Raseshwar Gopal Das.
Okay, Mr. Raseshwar Gopal. Mr. Raseshwar Gopal, can we see you? Yeah, there we see your nice face.
Thank you for an amazing topic. So I have a couple of questions that I was just trying to make some notes. You said very important 4 points. Who comes to Jagannath Puri Dham? As we stay in Jagannath Puri and we have this mood for Sri Vrindavan Dham. So as you said, like religious category, I just noted in a categories wise, like pious category, Bhajananandi and Seva Bhav. Those who want to serve Dham, right? So we see that maximum people, not devotees, we come to Sri Jagannath Puri just, maybe some couple of weeks. We come, we just go to darshan, have some katha, kirtan, and we don't get that opportunity. I'm talking about not particularly individually about me, but about other category of devotees. So how this all the devotees can fall in the fourth category, seva bhav, and what does it mean to serve dham? In what respects, in what ways devotee who are coming for the short time can serve dham? Because it is the highest according to the different categories you outlined. That's my first question. Yeah.
Great. Well, first of all, let's contemplate who brought us all to the Dham, and that's Srila Prabhupada. And what was Srila Prabhupada's mood in bringing devotees to the Dham? He brought them here. For example, in Mayapur, he wrote a letter to Kirtanananda. He said that in Mayapur, every year for Gaur Purnima, we want to have a festival. We want to discuss unity and diversity. Now, we want to come and discuss how we can do more preaching, and that in and of itself is a service. So Srila Prabhupada's mood always was that when the devotees come, it should be service oriented. And they should try to serve each other. They should cook. They should distribute free prasadam. They should do different things. And even if we're hearing Krishna Katha, if we're going to Tota Gopinath here in Puri for darshan or this Siddha Bakula, this or that, we should be going with a service attitude that I'm the servant of my Gurudev, and I'm not just here for vacation. In 1995, was it 95? Yeah, it was 95. We printed a magazine about Lord Nityananda. And I was a little disturbed. I was a little confused what I should do. I had a plan in my mind. We had this brand new magazine. We're going to take it to Kartik and Vrindavan, and we're going to sell lots of copies, and it's going to be like a big preaching kind of thing. But on the other hand, Kartik was getting over. It was like already Govardhan Puja time or something. And I was in Malaysia. We were printing there. And I was confused. What should I do? Because I want to offer this to my Guru Maharaj. The magazine is service for him. So how can but if I stop in Bhubaneswar, if I go to Bhubaneswar first, then there's not going to be enough time in Puri. In Vrindavan, I'm going to miss most of the devotees. So I phoned my Guru Maharaj and I asked him, what should I do? And he said, you should go to Vrindavan. And he said, you're going to Vrindavan for service. And I always remember that those words really pierced my heart. You're going to Vrindavan for service. And I remember on another occasion, Guru Maharaj was chastising my godbrother Raghava Pandit Prabhu, who wanted to go to Vrindavan, actually wanted to go and do kirtan with Ayendra Prabhu. And my Guru Maharaj was chastising him like anything. Later, he didn't know that he wanted to go and do kirtan with Ayendra, but he was saying, what do you want to go to Vrindavan for? Just to have a good time and just to see things and this and that? What kind of nonsense is that? You should hear Hari Katha from your Guru and serve him and that. And then later, when he heard that he wanted to associate with Ayendra, Guru Maharaj said, very good. Ayendra is good association. Ayendra Prabhu is. So that's my humble understanding that this is Srila Prabhupada's mood, always in the Dham. And I see that so beautifully with Vaisheshika Prabhu when he comes with his yatra. That's, for me, his yatra is just really, each yatra has its own special flavor. It's hard for me to say one yatra is the best, but they all have their own particular mood. They're all like individual persons. But Vaisheshika Prabhu's yatra is certainly one of my favorites. And the reason being because he brings everybody for service. He gives them all book bags, and in that book bag they have these little cards with mantras written on them in Odia and Odia, Bengali, Hindi, I think maybe Tamil and English. And they give them they start off, they give them a lollipop, a prasadam lollipop candy, and then they give them a Jagannath sticker, and then they give them a book, and then they hand them this card and show them the card, and they don't even say anything. He said they just stand and they do the mountain pose like in yoga. They just stand like a mountain, not moving. and they found so much success that people look at the card, oh, I have to give a donation and that. And then the devotee just smiles and they don't even have to hardly say anything. And that's their whole focus. And their focus is on the holy name. So I've really been speaking to devotees about this. You saw me recently a few times. All the devotees have been speaking to about this, that different people come with different moods. And if we come with a service mood, that's the way to really open the door of Jagannath Puri. Just like if I flatter you, I might, you might be impressed by that. You might appreciate me. I might be your friend somewhat. But if I want to serve you, if I give you some donation, if I want to clean your toilets, or I want to clean your house or something, it melts your heart. And then you really want to give yourself to that person. So yeah, that's my thought with that. Very important subject to me.
Yes, bro. Thank you very much for the first question. Second question, just quickly, that I was trying to meditate as you said, and Gaur Maharaj also says that Sri Jagannath Puri Dham is Gupta Vrindavan. Sometimes it's very difficult as an individual devotee to connect because Vrindavan is a mood and consciousness where we have Brajavasis. When you go to that place physically, we are not in that stage in a conscious way where we connect directly to Lord's Leela and pastimes. But when you come to Jagannath Puri, it's magnanimous. Lord is in majestic aura. He goes in Ratha Yatra, he wears jewels, so many things. Bada Singar wears. Anybody who is coming to Jagannath Puri and enters the temple is his majestic form. So what deeper spiritual significance does it hold for the devotees, those who understand the intimate mood, of Vrindavan with this majestic aura of Jagannath Puri? So how we can connect, being staying in Jagannath Puri, the mood of Vrindavan, as we understand with service, but sometimes we are just into service, our routine service, chanting, honoring prasadam, preaching on book distribution, but how we can connect that mood where Acharya says in his writings, Kabe hame chhadi ho Vrindavan hava, all this amazing mood, that how we can, get to the consciousness of Vrindavan after giving up self gratification. So how do you connect Jagannath Puri's majestic aura mood with Vrindavan's sweet mood?
So we have to see with our ears who takes it to Pata. And we have to try to understand this Dham through Goswami Vichar, not Smarta Vichar. There's two considerations are there. But even if we study it by Goswami Vichar, and okay, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is here, and we go to Jagannath Vallabha Gardens, and we can tell the story how Mahaprabhu saw Krishna in the forest there, and how we can go to Chatak Parvat and speak about how Mahaprabhu saw Govardhan there. We can go to the ocean and speak about how Mahaprabhu saw the Jamuna River. We can go to the Gambhira and speak about how Mahaprabhu saw in a dream the Ras Leela going on. And we can further speak about how in different literatures like Skanda Purana, when Lord Shiva went and did bhajan, near the place known as Dandabanga, he saw Vrindavan Dham, and there's a whole description of Vrindavan there. And also in Jaiva Dharma, Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes how different persons in Puri saw Vrindavan. Brihad Bhagavatamrita speaks about how Gopakumar sometimes saw Vrindavan. So that's Goswami Vichar. We can keep that in mind. But in more answer to your question, I mean, there's so many ways we could answer this, and this is a subject which I love and I want to really dive into very deeply. We can analyze it in different ways. I think just saying that by itself is not satisfying enough, because we're okay, Chatak Parvik's Govardhan Hill, but when I go there, man, I just see a lot of dust.
Right.
And now across from Tota Gopinath, they've got that wrestling camp or whatever it is, that kind of school thing there, and it's kind of really depressing. And I don't see, I go to Jagannath Vallabha Gardens now, they've got a big parking lot. As we told Niranjan Mars, when we took Niranjan Mars there last time, I was being a little cheeky. And I remembered some traditional, not traditional, but some music from the 70s in America. And I told him, I turned him with a line from a song by one famous musician in America. I said, they paved paradise. They paved it, and they put up a parking lot. And the Ranjamar said, "Oh God, now I can't get that out of my mind," because he remembered that song. But that's what they did with Jagannath Vallabha Gardens. So it's nice. It's very sweet and quaint that we speak about all these things. But how can we really understand it deeply? I would suggest that the essence of it is, which is what I was going to get to from the 14th chapter of Madhya Lila, which is a discussion between Mahaprabhu and Srup Damodar Goswami about Gundicha and about Rath Yatra and about the mood of the gopis. And that mood of the gopis, that's the mood that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has adopted here in Jagannath Puri. That's our Goswami Vichar. It's not just a physical thing that we want to come here and physically try to see. Like in Chaitanya Chakada, it said that Narendra Sarovar is Radhakund. And so then we go there and we try to like squeeze our eyes and rub them and look and see. Doesn't look like Radhakund to me, man. I don't know. We go to Chatak Parvik, we try to see. It doesn't mean like that. We can, of course, go and hear about the pastimes, like that helps. But when we try to understand the mood of bhajan of the gopis and their feeling here, which is a feeling like in Kurukshetra, and Mahaprabhu explains that to Srup Damodar Goswami, that the gopis in Kurukshetra, it's a mixed feeling. They're experiencing what Rupa Goswami describes as Samriddhi Man Sambhog, which is the topmost fully satisfying ecstasy of union, of meeting, because they've been gone. Samriddhi Man Sambhog takes place after Sudura Prabhas, after Krishna's left Braj. So now Krishna's with them again. So Samriddhi Man Sambhog. But they're also remembering that Sudura Prabhas, that you left us. And on top of all of that, there's another mood. You're going to leave soon and you're going to go back to Dwarka. So that's their bhajan. It's such a super intense feeling. And that feeling is the topmost feeling of the gopis. The gopis are really the epitome of Braj Prem. And the epitome of the ecstasy of the gopis is at this time, when they're meeting again with Krishna, and he's going to leave. They're having ecstasy being with him, but he's going to leave soon. And that's Jagannath Puri. So we should try to understand not just the physical aspects of things, but try to understand the bhav of it. And that's Goswami Vichar. Is that helpful? Sisha Gopal Prabhu, I'm going to introduce you to everybody. You already took part in one or two of our previous sanghas, but it's been a little while and not everybody understands. This is a very handsome young man. You can see him. He's from Cuttack. His legal name is Panda. He comes from an Odia family. He's a master's degree graduate from IIT, the topmost university in India. They're like gods in India, IIT. He was working for the Indian government here, the government here in Puri, helping to renovate preserve the Raghunandan Library, and that's a long story. Now he's our managing director for GORA, the Gaudiya Odia Research Association, and he tries to keep me in line. He's very frustrated with me always, I think. He puts up with me. He's always trying to push me, Madhavananda, don't sleep so much, try to do something and this and that. So thank you, Raseshwar Prabhu.
You're honored to be this Katha. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I can't stop talking about Puri. I feel so much. If I talk about Vrindavan, I have to also talk about Puri. I can't control myself. Ishvari Prema. the most famous poet in Lithuania.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my obeisances.
Nice to see you.
I want to ask, why Srila Prabhupada gave us the way to serve deities in this opulent way, to dress them, and temples also in this Vaikuntha mood, worshipping in Vaikuntha mood, if Krishna likes this Vraja mood. I also was thinking about this because I have this big Rath Yatra Jagannath, and they have so many clothes that the devotees made before, and they all very much opulent and so much jewelry, and I dress them like this. But I think if they really like this, because Jagannath's also like mood like Vrindavan, and how it can be connected with this Vaikuntha, if we really like, and when I have to dress them just like try to make like Vraja, no, how to reach, if we serve in Vaikuntha mood, can we reach Goloka Vrindavan finally?
If we serve a resident of Goloka Vrindavan, we can certainly do that. A real question comes, in Gopal Champu is described what Krishna was wearing when he arrived at Kshetra, and how when the Brijbasis arrived there, someone came and told Krishna, hey, these guys are here from Vrindavan. The first thing Krishna did was change his clothes. Krishna, when he arrived in Kurukshetra, he was dressed like a very, very opulent king. Now, you may say, that's not nice. Krishna knows the gopis are going to be there. Why does Krishna dress like that? I would suggest, very boldly, I would suggest that Krishna's dressing like that for the gopis, to churn their hearts, to make their feelings more and more intense. The gopis don't want to see him like that, and Krishna's very conscious of that. So when he arrives there, he's dressed in such an opulent way. He brings all the opulence of Dwarka and things with him. So now I'm speaking about the gopis. Now, another answer to your question, what about, we're not the gopis. We're very insignificant, tiny little persons. We aspire for this gopi bhav. How can we appreciate, and why does Srila Prabhupada, as you asked, why did Srila Prabhupada tell us to do this if Krishna likes the sweetness of Vrindavan? Well, a few things. First of all, we don't dress Prabhupada never installed Lakshmi Narayan. Prabhupada in very few places installed Sita Ram. And when he did it, my humble understanding is that it basically was a preaching tactic. And of course, it's not just a tactic that may hurt our hearts. Prabhupada also had love for Sita Ram, but Radha Krishna were his main deities. So if Radha Krishna is his main deities, then why the opulence? Well, let's look at that opulence. Prabhupada never had the devotees put a Sudarshan Chakra or a Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, the symbols of Lord Narayan, in the hands of Krishna. It's always a Vamsi, always a flute. And we always put tulsi leaves on their feet. And we always address them as Radha Krishna, unless you're living in London or Paris or Los Angeles, and that's a whole nother subject matter, which is also a very Rasik discussion. I don't know if we want to go there right now. But Prabhupada understood Bhakti Sanjayate Bhakti, that bhakti leads to bhakti, that when we practice Vaidhi Bhakti, but not just Vaidhi Bhakti in a mechanical way, Vaidhi means a bit mechanical by nature, but when we practice Vaidhi Bhakti under the guidance of Sadguru, under the guidance of a Prema-bhakti, and we're constantly from Srila Prabhupada being told, Shiraha Govinda Premi Sadadina Basi, this is my desire, I want Krishna Prem, I want to always reside in Vrindavan, this is my goal. We're constantly getting that every day. If we follow what Srila Prabhupada told us to do, we're going to read Krishna book every day. We're going to be hearing constantly about Vrindavan. And by practicing Vaidhi Bhakti, which is what we're qualified for, generally because we don't have spontaneous devotion. And if we try to imitate spontaneous devotion, then we'll just fall down. So one of the reasons why, to explain to all the other devotees, why Ishrai Prema, I think why you're asking this question, maybe you can flip your camera around and show us your Jagannath deities. Can you do that? Are you sitting in the room there with them?
Yes. Yeah, of course. Uh-huh.
This is why Ishwari Prema is asking this question, because she's the Jagannath Bhakta. And in her house are the deities
Well, I tried light. This is a little bit. I don't know if you can see.
yeah, that's good. Don't shake the camera. That's good. That's great. We can see them a little bit. Also, Leela Purushottam also has Jagannath deities in his home. So you could meditate like this. I would suggest, because I know within your question is another question. You're thinking about your own dressing of Jagannath. I can see that. And Jagannath's really Vrindavan Bihari Krishna. Should I give him a flute, and why should we dress him in this very opulent way? My suggestion would be that you think about Krishna Jagannath going to Kurukshetra and dressing in an opulent way to turn the hearts of the gopis. He's dressing like that in a way to kind of tease it, because then it's really, really intense. If he just shows up and he's dressed like a cowherd boy, then there's a chance they may take it for granted. Okay, you're one of us, and you're here. But when he shows up like this, it's like, oh my God, maybe we're going to lose him. So is that helpful, Shri Prema?
Yes, thank you very much. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
nice to see you again. Hare Krishna.
Nice to see you very much, Hare Krishna.
And anybody else with any comments, corrections, reflections, anything at all?
May
Shilton
I
Prabhu.
dare
Maybe.
to add something to this discussion, because it
Yeah.
always churns my heart when I hear this statement that we worship Radha and Krishna as Lakshmi Narayan. I just hear this phrase, and then there is like turmoil in my heart.
Let me ask you a question before you ask yours. I mean, wasn't that the mood of Ayendra Prabhu? Oh.
No, I want to like put on the table my humble attempt to understand the context of this it's actually everything has been said already in your answers and in these discussions. Just like from the language point of view, I'm more than sure that if Srila Prabhupada said that he wants us to worship Radha Krishna deities as Lakshmi Narayan, he wasn't speaking about changing their identity. He wanted us to worship Radha Krishna deities, but because we are not on the level of spontaneous love, we don't have that adhikar for spontaneous worshipping of Radha Krishna deities. Then he said, you worship them as Lakshmi Narayan, meaning by the methodology of worshipping Lakshmi Narayan. Like you do the regulated worship, like I tell you, do the 6 aratis, do the morning dressing, evening dressing, and you stick to that. Like cleanliness and punctuality. These were the words that Srila Prabhupada used most in his discussions to deity worship. So he knew that most of his followers won't be immediately ready for spontaneous seva to the deities, and probably in the temples it's not even the attempt actually to pretend that everyone is like having the adhikar for raganuga seva, for the spontaneous service. So it's like the seva is regulated. Seva is prescribed. It's directed by the vidhis of the shastra, by the pancharatra, and we follow that. But we know from the Goswami Vichar, the term that you use today quite a lot, that it's not exactly what Radha Krishna in Vrindavan are so so impressed with. So in that sense, like the real worship of Radha Krishna is when you have spontaneous love. But can't accept anyone trying to convince me that Srila Prabhupada wanted me to use Shrim Shriye and Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We don't do it in our temples. Even when Srila Prabhupada gave this order and he taught his disciples and devotees how the deity worship should be done, he never introduced like the service that would uh, how to say, I don't know how to express it, like that would tell us that the identity of the deities was changed. No way. I just can't accept it. No one will ever convince me about it.
How could we think that? Srila Prabhupada, from his childhood, he was worshiping Radha Govinda.
Yeah.
Prabhupada he was never a devotee of Lakshmi Narayan himself. He's always a devotee of Radha Krishna. And we should see how Prabhupada told us to dress the deities. Now, Prabhupada didn't like it when it's hard for me to almost say this, but he didn't like it when devotees would show Radharani's feet.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want them to be sentimental about that. He didn't like it when devotees would dress Krishna with no shirt and in a summer kind of way. Although I think there's really nothing wrong with that, with either one of those, really. I mean, in our tradition, both of those are done. But deity worship, for one thing, for me, is a very difficult thing. Now, let's speak a little bit about the institution. Institutional art, right? Ishwari Prema, let me just say two words, okay? Institutional poetry. Do you like to have institutional poetry? You get a letter from the GBC and they say, Ishwari Prema, we'd like you to write an official poem, but it's going to be reviewed by the GBC and we're going to correct it and do like, you're going to feel, I know we spoke with Devaki, you know Devaki in Lithuania, the artist? She was showing me some of her paintings and she asked me what I thought of them. And I did something I never do. Artists, you never ever say anything negative about their work, but I did. I looked at it, I said, well, to tell you the truth, it doesn't really inspire me. And there were pictures of Krishna and Braj and whatever. And she says, really? She said, and then she said, I don't like them either. She said that they told me to do this. And then they told me I had to do this and I had to do that. That's institutional art. Nobody's inspired by institutional poetry, institutional art, institutional schools, institutional deity worship. But it has to be there at the same time because we have an international society. The temples are there to help people for preaching, for creating congregation and things. But ultimately, we're all going to have our personal relationship with Krishna. Ultimately, we'd all like to have a house like Leela Purushottam with Radha Krishna deities and the whole thing, and which we do in our particular mood, and nobody can tell him what to do. It's his own, and that's our mood here in Jagannath Puri also, in our ashram. But it's a very difficult thing to have. They have official institutional art, official institutional goshalas, official institutional this and that. You have to. You can't get away from that. But it breaks your heart because art, by its definition, and I would include deity worship as an art. I would include go save as an art. I would include farming as an art. So many things, everything should be an art. Devotion is an art. And art means something which is distinctly individual. So you can't really do that in the big temples and that. So my mood in having these kind of discussions is always to encourage devotees to understand the importance of the institution, the role of the institution, and how it fits in with things. And when we talk about deity worship, it's a very, very difficult thing. I've had long talks with some of the main pujaris in ISKCON about this, including Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj, not so long ago even. It's a very hard thing because they have to have a standard for the whole society. But then, you know, some places they like to have more of a Vrindavan mood. If you go to New Brajadam in Hungary, they break the rules quite a bit, and I love it. How they dress Radha Shyam Sundar there. It's really, really sweet. But then if the deity worship minister comes around, they got to like be real quick and change things, maybe whatever. They'll get into some trouble. But there, because Shiva Ram Maharaj is a very strong personality, and he was the GBC. Now they've got some other persons there, his disciples. Because he's so strong, they can get away with that. They can do that thing. But it's a difficult thing. So I can understand this dilemma about the deity worship and that, but I totally agree with your points, Leela Purushottam Prabhu. And then the proof is Srila Prabhupada, he grew up with Radha Krishna deity worship, not Lakshmi Narayan. He was never, but he saw that we don't have, as you were saying, a qualification for that. Yeah. Golokadam, Germany. It's so sweet how they worship the deities there. Radha Madan Mohan. Okay, anybody else with anything?
Thank you.
Thank you, Leela Prabhu. Institutional poetry sounds something like the GBC resolutions. Yeah, you know, maybe they could ask Ishwari Prema. They could say, you know, we just had a GBC meeting. The GBC meeting's finished recently, and here's the resolutions. Now, Ishwari Prema, could you please write it in poetry? All the resolutions. So it would probably be a lot sweeter, actually.
That would be only thing that would convince me to read it.
But I love those GBC devotees, all of them, really. They have a great heart, and they're doing something wonderful for Prabhupada. We should see that. Orsa, you have something you want to share?
Yes, Hare Krishna, my pranams to everyone. I have a comment and a question. It really catched my mind when it was written that Brahma accept this lower birth in Vrindavan. It's kind of sweet because he's of course not obliged to do so. So it's really something nice or sweet to do something which ordinary people may see as something lower activity. And the question, it's not direct, just slightly connected to our topic, that I was wondering about that manjaris are direct access to the most intimate kunjas. And my question is that how this is visible in Jagannath Puri, as in the Leelas of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, in the Gambhira, Roy Ramananda and Swarup Damodar were gopis, Lalita and Vishaka, and the manjaris actually were not there in the most intimate periods of time of the Leela. So, my understanding currently that in this aspect, we must understand this, that Vrindavan is really, or this success is really not place dependent, but more consciousness. But I would like to know what's your answer. Thank you.
So Shup Damodar and Roy Ramananda are there, but they're teaching us, what are they doing? Generally, the gopis, they're doing direct service for Krishna and Srimati Radharani, but in the Gambhira, they're doing kirtan, and they're engaging in that kirtan. Srup Damodar Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami, Surupya Raghu. Raghunath Das Goswami is described as Surupya Raghu. He's the Raghu of Srup Damodar. And Raghunath Das Goswami is Tulsi Manjari, and Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari. So they're establishing this Manjari Bhav in the form of kirtan. And Manjaris means that they're assisting the older gopis in that. And so that's our work. We're assisting our Gurujanas, we're assisting our acharyas, as we often call it, the kirtan of our sampradaya. That's Manjari Bhav. And we also see in Jagannath Puri that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself also sometimes tastes Manjari Bhav. Although sometimes he's in the mood of Radharani, sometimes he's in the mood of Krishna and Puri, but sometimes, such as at Chatak Parvat, when he sees Chatak Parvat, he runs toward the mountain, he sees Govardhan Hill, he falls on the ground in ecstasy, and then Srup Damodar Goswami, the devotees come and they start chanting and they bring him back to external consciousness. At first, he's in Madhyam Chinta, he's in kind of a middle consciousness. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that in Puri, Mahaprabhu had three types of consciousness: internal, external, and middle. So middle means he's a little bit of both. And he's looking around, he said, where am I? Where did you bring me? And then he starts explaining his vision that he just had. He said, I was at Govardhan Hill and I saw Radha and Krishna in a cave and I was assisting the gopis. I was picking flowers and helping them make garlands. That's Manjari Seva. He's not seeing himself as Radha Krishna. He's not seeing himself as one of the gopis. In that pastime, he's seeing himself as an assistant to them. And that's the place where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta made his bhajan kutir. In a few days, we're going to take devotees there, and I want to speak something about this, about the difference between Acharya Abhiman and Bhakta Abhiman, which is what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta spoke about there, and why he built his bhajan kutir on top of the hill, because that's Manjari Bhav. On top of the hill means it was higher than the deities, because that's the place of service. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu walked on Chatak Parvat, although he saw it as Govardhan Hill. He walked on it because he's in the mood of a Manjari doing service. And so Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that his bhajan kutir on top of the hill, that's the temple of Radharani, he said. And we're staying there to assist Srimati Radharani, which means Manjari Bhav. And he called that Acharya Das Abhiman, where he says there's two types of moods. One is Bhakta Abhiman. And Bhakta Abhiman, he said this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had, and this is what sometimes Rupa Goswami has, where the devotees are thinking of their own service. Not thinking of their own service, they're thinking of their own bhajan. I'm doing my bhajan for myself and that. But Acharya Das Abhiman means that when Mahaprabhu's there, now he's assisting the gopis. That's Acharya Das Abhiman. That Lalita and Vishaka, they're the acharyas. And Mahaprabhu has this Acharya Das Abhiman, he has this mentality of serving them. So that Manjari Bhav is very much here in Jagannath Puri. In fact, that's the essence of the Gambhira pastimes. That's the whole essence of our Goswami Vichar, the consideration they have toward Jagannath Puri. And it would be, that's just a little bit of it. There's so many things we could say to further establish that. It's a big subject. Is that helpful? Okay, nice to see you. It looks like it's cold there also, huh? No, I'm using AC here right now. It's like, oh my God, it's
No, it's
hot outside.
15 degrees Celsius here. It's starting the spring. It's very nice.
I don't know how much it is today, but it must have been 35 or something. It's getting quite hot. Okay.
I'm envious.
Mongo Prabhu, you want to share something?
Oh, I am used to your climate, like 35 degrees.
You can come.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning at 9:30 in the morning, if you can get an all-night flight, you can just fly straight into Delhi, and from Delhi to Bhubaneswar, and get a taxi here. Make it to Siddhabakul by 9:30 in the morning. We're going to give a talk about the pastimes of Haridas Thakur and Puri and the meaning of that for our bhajan. You're invited.
Wow. Thank you. Okay.
I'm being cruel, I know. Your house looks so nice now, Mangal Prabhu. When I was there, a few years ago, it was a construction site.
Yeah, it's done now.
Looks really
Most of it. Yeah.
And you're being nice to Kalindi?
Ask her.
Is it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, Kalindi? 2 thumbs up. Wow. Wow, you got a good grade, man. That's great.
Happy day today.
These guys here, they've got the most amazing recording equipment. These are disciples of Bhakti Viganmars, mostly different gurus, but it's about 80 devotees. And they've got this, I don't know how they travel with it. They've got this light thing, it's like about this big around. And the stand is about this big around. It's this huge stand and this beautiful light. And they've got all these like 4 or 5 different cameras and sound things. And they've got a whole team of recording things. So I'll ask them. I need to remind him. I gave a talk the other day, which I think about how to enter into Puri and what is the meaning of Puri. And we spoke about this thing about service and that too. All right. So does anybody have anything burning they really want to share? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and stop. And I'm going to take a little prasadam. It's getting late here. It's 8 o'clock almost. Okay, so thank you all so much. I want to try to be strict in doing this every week. It's just hard for me sometimes when we have so many parikaramas and we're going back and forth this place and that, and my body is not the way it should be. It's not what it was when I was 25 years old. Okay, thank you all so much. Srila
Thank you so
Prabhupada
much,
ki
Prabhu.
jai,
Thank you.
Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Shri
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham ki jai,
Jai.
Gopal Hari Bol, Vancha Kalpa Darubis Cha, Kripa Sindhu Bheva Cha Patitana, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Nanda Kori Vaishnava Brinda ki jai.
Jai.
Very good.